Oh no, I lost my choo-choo.
No, sorry.
This last few minutes is A+ content.
Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to episode 31 of the Casual Tryhard Podcast. I'm Bryan.
And I'm James.
And we're going to kind of talk bands and why things get banned and why things should be banned. And
yeah, it's all about bands. You've heard us talk about bands, especially lately a lot. You've heard talk about bands from, other various pros out there. But I don't think we've actually had a conversation about bands and why they happen and how they happen and what has happened in the past.
Yeah, kind of the history of bannings
so
and things like that.
Yeah, I think that'd be a cool topic. So we're going to take a break from Legacy because we don't want to overwhelm you with that. And we're going to talk about bands today.
So you can reach out to us on Twitter at Casual Tripod if you have show suggestions, if you think we're running on fumes here.
You can also get a hold of us on Facebook at Casual Tryhard MTG, and you can email us at show@casualtryhard.com.
Don't want people to be like, oh man, they were way more interesting in March. They jumped the shark now.
This is a good topic.
It is. No, I'm just, like, if you're thinking that, it's your own fault. Email us suggestions.
Yeah.
Because like we keep saying, like, I don't know if anyone cares about standard. Like, after this weekend with the, MCQ weekend, which I did not queue for, weak sauce me. Yeah, like, I don't know, there's not an event.
Yeah, there's just nothing.
So no one's going to care.
Yeah, I don't think a standard event has fired in our store in a month. Yeah,
like, I show up with trusty Scape Shift, and no one wants to play.
Yep.
For us, you will seeing us do a gameplay video, our very first gameplay video. Well, second, I did butcher a pre-release.
Yeah.
But
so we're going to do a special video. The game store that we hang out at, Myrtle Beach Games, has asked us to do a gameplay video for the new Commander decks. So those of you that have been begging us for Commander content, this is what you get. Or
at least to make me play Commander. One of the two. It seems like those are equal things.
Yeah, one of the two. Either to make Bryan hate himself or for Commander content. One of the two. It's really not going to be much of a review of the decks or anything. It's going to be, from what I understand, just gameplay. There's 4 of us are going to sit around and play. You'll probably get some commentary, but
I hope we don't just sit there and play in silence. They better get some commentary.
No, what I meant was we're not going to try and review the decks, right?
Yeah.
We're just going to play them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we get Bowman to do his Rich Hagen impression, the entire...
oh, that'd be great.
That would be.
We should look into that.
We should. That'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome. I don't know if he can do that for an hour, though.
I don't know. I mean, with enough fruit snacks, anything is possible.
This is true.
Our next event, we have the Legacy event is our big thing in September, but there is an MCQ at Firefly Games.
Yep.
Which is 2 days before the next banned and restricted announcement.
Woohoo!
And so this is kind of this and some of the decisions we're having to make around the banned and restriction announcement is kind of what got us to the ban topic. Mm-hmm. So everyone who has touched a Magic card and has a pulse is pretty sure that Hogaak go bye-bye on the 26th of August.
Absolutely.
So to back that up, there was a GP in Minneapolis.
Yep.
If a GP happens and no one sees it, did it actually happen?
We have data. Oh, did you hear? This is a way aside topic that I didn't put notes in, so I'm going to spring it on you.
Okay.
There was a guy on Twitter, I think, that had posted on Twitter he was at the event, round by round, shooting out his pairings and his wins or whatever, and had thousands of people following him, progressed through this GP, made it in the top 8, air quotes, but never actually entered the GP.
What?
Yeah, he just made the whole thing up and progressed through the weekend just to show what lack of coverage does to Magic social media.
Huh.
Yeah.
That is weird.
Yeah, I'll have to try and find it and send it to you.
I mean, if he's just some random that had thousands of people retweeting and following, one, apparently I did our coverage of our our DC GP event incorrectly. But two, it shows there's an appetite for it.
Yeah.
I don't know what levers have to change to make it profitable.
Yeah.
But, like, there's got to be some way for someone to make money. Like, whenever I turn on, like, Wizards coverage on Twitch, I get bombarded with, like, 5 ads before, like, I get to...
Yeah, and that's not even the ads that, like, they're putting out there. Those are the ads that Twitch does.
That supports them in air quotes. At least that's what it tells me on my TV or whatever.
Yeah, but you know how, like, Star City does their...
like Magic does Ultra Pro.
And,
like, Ultra Pro stuff.
Yeah.
And then just, like, the ad for their, like, product. It somehow has to be, like, profitable.
Yeah. Like, GPs have been around for a while, and coverage has been around for a while. I don't know how it wasn't, like, profitable for so long, and they still did it.
The only thing I can think is, like, there's a finite pot of money.
Yeah.
And now a lot of that money goes to the MPL, and that's their promotional thing.
Yeah, and they've also pulled some money out of that for the arena, like MCQs and stuff.
Yeah, so it could be that, but it just seems like you would have people... watching, and it's just unfortunate that they don't do it, and that, you know, Joe Blow and, like, Omaha can be sitting in his bedroom, like, woo, just made top 8, get got nerds, and then people were like, where's Joe Blow's picture?
Yeah,
where's his deck list?
I just thought it was really interesting that he had, like, people congratulating him and following him throughout the weekend, and, like, was absolutely nowhere near the event.
That is impressive. And again, I did it wrong. I'm sorry.
We should have to work on that for next time.
Had more people following the James run.
Yeah, maybe next time. So we were talking about GP Minneapolis.
Yeah, so there were 5 of the top 8 decks were Hogaak.
7 of the top 16.
Okay. The final was a Hogaak mirror. Sweet.
Yep.
So we're all pretty sure that the deck goes away.
Yeah. Was it Aaron Forsyth put out a tweet today that said they will not be emergency banning the card?
It wasn't. They didn't see that card. There will
be no emergency bans, is what the tweet was.
Wink, wink. There's already a scheduled date for the 26th. I don't know what we could be talking about possibly banning.
Yeah.
I think the problem is like we talked about before, right? If you ban it before GP Vegas, there are people that is the deck they put together and registered to play.
Yes.
And I don't know how many people, like, you lose by banning Hogaak that you then gain that are now willing to go to the event.
Yeah. That was a lot of the responses to that tweet were people saying, I just canceled my trip to Vegas.
Okay.
Because they don't want to play Hogaak, 5 rounds on Saturday or whatever.
I don't know. Like, you play kind of...
There's both sides.
You kind of play the format that you have.
Yeah.
But...
No, I agree.
It is awkward, admittedly.
I agree to the point where I ordered stuff for Hogaak knowing that it's going to be banned in 2 weeks.
Yeah, so this is what we got to is James had a decision.
Yep.
Do I play Jund?
Which is my favorite deck ever.
And through extensive testing against me, only beats Hogaak when Hogaak mulls to 5.
Yeah. Was not even close.
Yes.
Like, I thought my matchup might not have been great, but at least wasn't abysmal. Turns out, abysmal.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah.
Right. You can, like, turn 0 ley line and, like, then play a cage and may not have, like, a force of vigor. Right. But it's also just, like, if you don't have those things, if you just have, like, a hand that's, like, interactive with, like, a scavenging ooze, like, sorry.
Yeah,
like, that doesn't do anything good anymore.
Yeah.
We kind of said that Hogaak might be tier 0. Mm-hmm. It's clearly the tier 0 deck.
It absolutely is.
You either are playing the deck or you have to have a very good reason, such as I don't want to buy Vengevines and Gravecrawlers, and you said I will buy Vengevines and Gravecrawlers.
Yeah, I bought Vengevines and Gravecrawlers. So here we are.
Here we are doing this thing.
Yep. I haven't actually played a game with the deck yet. I just started kind of putting it together, and my Gravecrawlers are still in the mail. But I goldfished it a bunch over the weekend. That deck is broken. It is by far the most broken deck I have ever sleeved up and played. It feels exactly like colorless Eldrazi and Eldrazi Winter. You just put giant stuff in play super early, and nothing anybody does matters.
And, I mean, the difference is you could, in theory, sweep Eldrazi.
Right.
This, you're just like, oh, all right.
Do it again next turn.
I'll do it again next turn. Well, our game that we played on Friday, you were like, Assassin's Trophy, your Hogaak. I was like, okay. I had no swamp to get because it was already in my graveyard.
Right.
And you're like, okay, you're going to have to beat me some other way. I was like, no, I'm just going to cast that Hogaak again. And I just cast that same Hogaak again. I was like, here we go.
Yep, and then I died.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is this is awful.
Yeah, but like the games I was goldfishing, like a bad hand, a hand that you probably wouldn't even keep, puts like 12 power into play on turn 3. Like, that's not okay.
No, it is not okay.
Like, a mediocre, like, reasonable hand puts, 10 power in play on turn 2, which is also not okay.
It seems as though they're in a world of hurt with that card. They totally missed it, which is, a thing that happens.
None of the removal in the format lines up well against it. And if you do start playing removal that lines up well against it, like, you're forfeiting every other matchup.
It's one of those things that you just can't be functional against it and be functional against anything else. So we had to make a decision if we were going to play it or not. And so why did you decide to play it? Just because it's the best deck?
I hands down feel it's the best deck in the format right now. Like you said, you either need to play the deck or have a really good reason to not play the deck. And after our matchup the other day and, looking at what I would have to do to my list in order to beat Hogaak, it wouldn't have been like barely even Jund anymore. And that would have been the only deck that I, could beat is Hogaak. So I decided to jump on board and maybe come up with some creative sideboard ideas to fight the mirror and fight through the hate. And again, like we were talking about metagame last week, and we've kind of alluded to it a couple times before, but like even when a deck is tier 0, it's still only 20% of the metagame. So in an 8-round tournament, statistically you're going to play it twice.
Yeah, and if you have to skew your list so far that you don't think that you can actually win other matchups,
it's not worth it.
It does not seem good.
Yep. I mean, you also if you're trying to win the tournament, you also can't throw those 2 matchups away though. If you go 6-2 in an 8-round 200-man tournament, you're not making top 8.
No.
So it's awkward. I made a decision. The other thing that made it kind of okay was both Gravecrawler and Vengevine are James kind of cards anyway.
They've always held their value to some degree. Gravecrawler is higher than it has been.
Yeah.
But not markedly so. And Vengevine has just been $35 forever.
Yeah. I had been looking at picking up Vengevines off and on over the last year and a half anyway. And they are slightly cheaper now than they were when I was first looking at them. So
yeah, because I think everyone's slowly I've got 2 more weeks of this. I might have 1 more event. Maybe it's time for me to get off.
Yep, I agree.
Yes.
So that's where I am with Modern right now.
Yeah.
Play Hogaak or play something that beats it, but good luck.
Yeah, because even Rest in Peace, if you're on the draw, you might just
It's too slow.
Yeah, you're just there's 10 power, and now I have to take my turn 2 to play Rest in Peace, get attacked.
Die.
And then, if I don't have an answer, I just die the next turn. It's okay.
Yep.
Or, God forbid, they, get 2 Vengevines, and you're just, 8 you.
Then you're just actual dead.
8 you.
Yeah.
You have to have 2 answers, 8 you.
Yeah.
It's okay, cool.
Yep. Or, a carrion feeder that eats up a bunch of garbage and ends up being a threat. There's just... The deck is nuts. Too much.
Too much, too good.
Too much, too good. Yep.
So that leads us to the idea of bannings.
Yep.
Right? So we know Hogaak's going to be banned. We've made our decision that we're going to try to play the deck.
Regardless.
Yep. I mean, because this is the kind of deck I play. Is it the most busted degenerate thing?
Absolutely.
Does it use the graveyard?
Absolutely.
These are all the boxes I need to check. And it's yes, it is.
Yep.
So we're going to do that. So
one more thing on the topic of Hogaak.
Okay.
Hogaak is so good that we are both considering playing it in Legacy.
And by considering, you mean I've bought the entire deck in foil just about?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm in.
You're in.
I am in. So I play Dark Depths combo in Legacy. I like to turn 2 20/20s.
Yep.
Look at my opponent sometimes and sure I can go I didn't come here to not do this.
Right.
And just do it.
It's almost as good as a turn 2 20/20?
Turn 2 8/8?
Yeah, it's pretty close, yeah. Or both.
Yeah, and so the problem with that deck is it oftentimes folds to Blood Moon.
Mm-hmm.
And it folds to sometimes just a Swords to Plowshares, you go all in and then you don't have anything kind of left to rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have now you have this 2-prong approach where you have game 1 you Merit Lage them and you make a 20/20 on turn 2 or 3. Well, now they're okay, I got to bring in my Blood Moons.
Right.
And then their whole game plan is like, okay, I'm going to have to Blood Moon them. And then you just like turn to an 8/8 and you're like, cool, you can Blood Moon me.
Yeah.
But I'm going to hit you.
Blood Moon.
Yeah, I'm going to hit you 3 times and kill you.
Right.
If you don't have an answer, and this is Legacy, the answers are like swords and swords.
Swords, yeah.
And that's basically it. Like, maybe
you're too fast for like a Jace bounce.
Yeah. Maybe if someone has an assassin's trophy, like fine,
but then you just do it
you just do it again. Right? So there's just not a lot of there's not a lot of answers to it. So you can come at them at like 2 different angles. Mm-hmm. I don't know which one's your A plan. Like, you look at your hand and you decide your A plan. You're like,
you figure out what's easier to do.
Yeah. A plan in this game is make an 8/8 on turn 2.
Right.
All right. If you do that on turn 2, game 1, maybe they bring in ley lines and rest in peace, and then you're just like, cool, okay. 2020, go.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, I didn't see that one coming. Yeah. So we're like free 8/8s are good enough for Legacy. It turns out.
Absolutely.
Go to bands now.
Yep.
Modern started with a band list.
It did. A fairly extensive one.
Yeah.
And you were actually just telling me a really cool story that I didn't know.
Yeah, so the initial modern ban list, we have most of them on here, was Ancestral Visions, unbanned now.
Correct.
The Artifact lands, there's a cycle of lands that are lands that tap for like a white, but it's an artifact land. Right.
They were in Mirrodin.
Yes.
It's like Ancient Den, Tree of Tales, Vault of Whispers, Seed of the Synod,
Great Furnace. This is the red one, yeah. Yep. So these are just busted, like, if your affinity deck could
if you do anything that cares about artifacts, right?
Yeah, they're just free artifacts.
Yeah.
Right, so still banned.
Right, yeah, absolutely still banned. They are broken. They should not be legal.
Bitter Blossom, unbanned.
Correct.
People thought it was way too good. It got unbanned.
Saw no play.
Sees no play.
Yep.
Tricked me into playing black-white tokens.
Once in a while, you'll see it like in the sideboard of like a deck that wants to grind some, but you really don't see it hardly
Or it's
at
like
all.
a transformational sideboard where you stick that, and now they have to deal with this other thing.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of crazy. They're still like $40.
Yeah.
After a reprint and seeing no play.
2 reprints.
2 reprints, yeah.
Modern Masters and then Ultimate Masters. Yeah. Dark Depths.
Mm-hmm.
There was a deck in Extended that was kind of like I was talking about. It had the Dark Depths combo in it.
Yeah.
But it
had
also
a different Dark Depths combo, though. It didn't have
it had Hex
Thespian
Mage.
Stage. Right,
it had Hex Mage. Yeah. But it also had Thopter Sword in it.
Yes.
So you had
it's the deck that put Jerry Thompson on the map, right?
Yes. So Dark Depths is still banned.
Yeah.
Free Dark Depths.
I don't think we should free Dark Depths.
Chrome Mox, which is just fast mana.
Yep. Super banned.
Yeah. Dread Return, because basically it lets you sacrifice 3 creatures it has flashback, sack 3 creatures.
Reanimate something.
Mm-hmm. So in Dread, you just get to like flip your deck over and you can combo kill people if you have Dread Return.
Right.
That's one of the ways that the Legacy Dredge deck wins. Glimpse of Nature, which is a green, and whenever you cast a creature, you draw a card.
It is the backbone of Legacy Elves.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, would Elves be good enough?
Like Glimpse? Absolutely.
I just feel like you don't get, like...
Gaia's Cradle,
but you also don't have Natural Order. So, right, you, like, do your thing, and you, like, dump a bunch of Elves out, and then you get, like, Angered or Supreme Verdict. And I guess you're, like, kind of at parity because you've drawn a bunch of cards, but you've also just dumped them on the board.
I don't know. Like, I think Elves is better than most people think it is anyway. I'm kind of partial to Elves to start with, but, I mean, you don't go for, like, the Craterhoof kill like you do in Legacy with Natural Order, though. You do either an Azuri kill or a Shaman of the Pack.
Yeah,
like,
I guess
Glimpse
Shaman
with
of the Pack.
Shaman's just dirty,
yeah,
right?
I guess you can, like, just Shaman them. You just always have to hold up a black.
Yeah.
Okay, fair.
I would love to play Modern Elves with Glimpse.
Yeah. I mean, they just added a blue to it and made it Beck.
Beck, yeah. Yeah, it turns out that 1 mana's worth a lot, though.
Yeah, it is. Then Golgari Grave Troll. Banned. It has other attacks. It has a casting cost, but it says Dredge 6 on it.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
That's all that really matters. It was banned.
Yeah.
Then it was unbanned.
And then it got banned again.
Then it got banned again.
Yeah.
And again, like, Dredge was good, but I don't know if Dredge was not like
I don't think
Hogaak
Dredge
good.
was ever that good. I mean, it was a great deck, but I don't think it was a deck that needed bannings.
I think it comes back to one of my theories is that people dislike graveyard decks.
Yeah.
And so they're way more likely to call for a ban of a graveyard deck than they are to call for a ban of any other kind of deck.
The Dredge deck that had Golgari Grave Troll, though, they look very similar on paper, but they kind of played different than like today's Dredge deck, though. Like even like forget about Hogaak, like the Dredge deck that existed right before Modern Horizons came out. The new Dredge deck, I'm gonna call it, can play a lot grindier game than the last one did. Like this version, you can just kind of grind people into dust and like kill them off with a Conflagrate. The Grave Troll version leaned way less heavily on Conflagrate.
Yeah. And
I think that was part of the problem was people don't like decks that they don't get to play against. Like they want to interact. And when you play one of these tier 0 decks that, vomits their hand, puts 20 power in play on turn 3, or Dredge, where no matter what you do, it doesn't matter because it's all coming back anyway. Like those are the games that people don't really want to play. That's what makes a format unfun, I think.
Fair. So it was banned, it was unbanned, and then it got banned like a year later or 6 months later?
Yeah, it was some amount of time. I forget if it was
it wasn't very long.
Months or whatever.
Then Hypergenesis.
Yeah. Broken Magic card.
So there's a card from Legends called Eureka, which is 2 green, and each player, you alternate back and forth, and each player gets to put permanents from their hand onto the battlefield.
Yep.
Hypergenesis is one of the suspend cards that has no casting cost. It's like Living End.
Right.
So you do the same thing that you do with Living End. You cascade into it with a card that has Cascade.
Yeah, whichever way you want.
Yeah, whichever one you want. And then you each get to put permanents into play. And you're like, well, it's fair. The problem is that the permanents you're putting in, your deck's built to put Emeralds and like Urabrasks.
Yeah.
Which give all your creatures haste and make all your opponent's creatures enter the battlefield tapped.
Yeah, that's awkward.
And like Dragon Lord Kolagons is more weight, and then like so you're just putting giant things into the battlefield with haste and killing them.
Yeah, and your opponent's putting in like meddling mages.
Yeah,
and you're laughing at them.
It's like, cool, I'm not casting this.
Yeah.
What would you like to name? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Then Jace the Mind Sculptor. Was banned. Was banned, and everyone was like, we can never unban Jace. Jace will just take over the format.
Yeah.
And then was unbanned, went from like $40 to like $120 briefly.
It's still like $120.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I should just get rid of mine. I'm never going to play a Jace.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
So Jace is in the blue-white control decks, and depending on who you talk to, those decks vacillate between being okay and wildly unplayable. Why are you still sleeving that up?
Right.
But control players are like, no, this is what I do.
It's good, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, but everyone else says it's bad. No, it's good. It has a good Hogaak matchup.
Sure.
Does it?
Just like Jund.
Does it really have a good Hogaak matchup? And then Mental Misstep, free counterspell to counter 1-mana things.
Yeah, it turns out that's real good.
Yeah. Sensei's Divining Top, because that card just grinds stuff to a halt.
Yeah.
Skull Clamp, because they didn't think about how that would work.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a downside. The neg one was supposed to be a downside.
Yeah, but then it just made it so Skull Clamp is an equipment for 1 mana, gives a creature +1/-1.
I think so, yeah.
And equips for 1.
Yep.
And if the creature dies, you draw 2 cards. So if you put it on an X1, it says 1 mana, draw 2 cards.
That's correct. Sacrifice a creature, draw 2 cards, basically.
Yeah, that's real good.
That's real good.
And it's repeatable.
Yeah, when you have like some sort of token maker, that's amazing.
Yeah. Bitter Blossom in that A+ combo.
Absolutely.
Pay 1 life, draw 2 cards.
Yep. Thopter Sword also, pretty good. Yep.
So that is why Skull Clamp got banned. Stoneforge Mystic, the argument here, so 1 and a white for a 1/2, woo, get hype.
Yeah.
Comes into play, you can search for an equipment, and you can pay 1 and a white and tap Stoneforge to put the equipment into play. So you get Batterskull, which has Living Weapon, so when it comes into play, it makes a creature to attach itself to.
Yep, a 0/0.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the cycle of equipment in Core Set 20. The green guy, the green one that makes a wolf and gives it +1/+1.
Yeah, the red one that makes an elemental.
Yeah, so it's the same kind of thing with Batterskull.
Yep.
People are like, well, all the white decks will just put in like 3 swords or 2 swords and some Stoneforge Mystics, and they'll all look the same.
That's fine. There's no white decks, so.
1, there are no white decks, and 2, turn 2, play a 1/2, turn 3, be dead.
Right.
Like, cool.
Yeah. It doesn't even chump a Hogaak well.
Yeah. Sword of the Meek, unbanned now.
Correct.
I made $200 or $300 off that unbanned.
Yes, you did.
So it's like 2 mana for an equipment that has an equipped cost that no one cares about.
Right.
But if it's in your graveyard and a 1/1 comes on the battlefield, it returns from your graveyard and equips to it. So with Thopter Foundry, which is hybrid...
It's like blue hybrid black-white?
Or blue-white hybrid black or something.
Like that.
It's a weird thing, and it's like pay 1, sack an artifact, make a 1/1.
Make a Thopter gain a life.
Make a Thopter gain a life.
Yep.
So then you can sack your sword to pay for the cost. The 1/1 comes into play. The sword comes and attaches to it.
Right.
So you can it just basically makes it you get to this point where you can't really die. You just inevitably grind someone else.
Yeah, however much mana you have, you make that many Thopters
and gain that much
life.
And it's like showing up now in the new
Urza decks. Yeah. Saw no play for a very long time, despite being unbanned. And then, has just recently come back in the Urza Word decks.
Yeah.
Just starting to play it.
Because it got unbanned. Everyone played it for 3 weeks and was like, oh, wait, no, this is trash.
Yeah.
This was good 6 years ago, but not anymore.
Not anymore.
Umezawa's Jite is
banned for a reason.
A ridiculous card.
Yeah. Does not read as well as it plays.
Yeah, you basically, your opponent can't burn you out.
Right.
They can never let you get into combat with it.
Right.
And they can't play creatures that have really two toughness.
Yeah.
So Jite is a 2 mana equipment that equips for 2.
2, I think.
And if the creature deals combat damage,
not
to a player, just combat damage, just rumbles in some way,
yep,
you put 2 counters on the Jite.
Not on the creature.
So if the creature dies, Jite still has counters.
Yep.
And it says remove a counter, gain 4 life. Remove a counter, the equipped creature gets +2/+2. Remove a counter, any creature gets -1/-1.
Yep.
So you're attack, and they're block. You get 2 counters, and then you get to kill another creature.
Or gain a bunch of life, or make
cards,
massive pumps the next turn.
Ridiculous.
Yep.
And then Valakut the Molten Pinnacle.
Yep.
Which is the original Field of the Dead. To some degree.
Yep.
When you have 5 mountains, when it's in play and 5 mountain, and the 5th mountain comes into play,
you get the lightning bolt something.
Yes. So that was banned for a while. And it's been off the ban list. I saw that it had been unbanned. I was looking through the history of bannings, and I was like, Valakut was banned?
Yeah, I didn't know that until I was putting this episode together.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So those are the things that were kind of banned at the beginning. We kind of explained why. And some of them come off as cards have gotten more powerful, and their power level has kind of fallen in line with the power of the current format.
Yep.
So why are cards banned?
Well, the first reason is for situations like we have right now, where there are certain cards and or decks that warp the entire meta around them. The typical tier 0 deck. So this is, where we are now with Hogaak. This is where we were with Eldrazi Winter. And way back at the start of Modern, there was Jund also was, the deck to beat. It was everywhere. It was oppressive. And all of them have had, been basically banned out of existence.
Yeah, so we went back through a while back, broke down when people were calling for a Faithless Looting to be banned.
Yeah.
Right, and I went through and I looked at the entire history of Modern and metagame percentages.
Yeah.
And Jund at a point was 30% or something.
That's insane.
Of the top 32.
Yeah.
And that's just not reasonable.
Right.
And so they kind of took half measures.
Yeah.
They went after Bloodbraid Elf when really the offender was Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah.
Which sounds very similar to what happened with these, where they're well, let's ban Bridge from Below.
Yeah, didn't quite get there.
And see if that does it, and it's oh no, it doesn't do it.
Yeah, no.
Things are worse now.
Yeah, and I believe the deck is better now than it was before. But yeah, they banned Punishing Fire, which wasn't the main offender, Bloodbraid Elf, Wild Nakatl, and, had they just taken care of Deathrite Shaman off the rip, they wouldn't have had to ban all those other cards. Yeah. So sometimes it's better just to cut the head off and be done with it.
Yeah, I mean, and Bloodbraid Elf has come back.
And it's fine. It's not overpowered.
I've brought up bringing Punishing Fire back. People were like, oh, they don't want to encourage that kind of gameplay. And I'm like...
It wouldn't see play.
Is a 1 and a red, deal 2, buy it back for a red after they gain a life. Like,
yeah, if your
that would
gains
never
a life,
get
you can buy it
played.
back. Yeah.
Like, it would not get played. Like, I don't think Jund, Jund is a slow, grindy deck, but I don't think that it can hold up long enough to make that, like, reasonable.
No, I mean, there's games where Ren and 6 is too slow.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way you're going to do Punishing Fire loops. Not going to happen.
Yeah, because, I mean, even against something like Burn, you're just like, I'm at 6.
Yeah.
I don't, like, I have to fade 2 draw steps? Like, I don't know if I can actually do this.
Yeah, not going to happen.
Right? So, like, not even just, like, Hogaak not being good enough.
Right. Just in general.
Like, there's enough fast decks that you just aren't going to have a chance to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, like I said, Eldrazi Winter.
Yep.
So, the reason that deck was so good, if everyone doesn't know, is... So way back in Zendikar,
the first Zendikar,
they printed all the Eldrazi's were giant,
like huge, like 10 mana or more.
Yeah, they were all huge.
Yeah.
So they printed Eye of Ugin, and Eye of Ugin was actually in Worldwake or Rise or something before.
Yeah, it was one of them.
Before there were actually Eldrazi's.
Right.
So there's just this random.
Yeah, it was Worldwake, I think.
Yeah, there's just this random card that was like, all Eldrazi creature spells cost 2 less to cast.
Yeah.
Pay 7, tap it. Go get, was it an Eldrazi or a colorless thing?
One of the two, yeah.
Go get something big.
Yep.
Right? So this card was there, and then the next set comes out, and they have all these giant spaghetti monsters.
Yep.
And, making a Kozilek cost 9 instead of 11.
Isn't that big a deal?
Isn't a big deal.
And they even had Eldrazi Temple, which tapped for 2 colorless, only to cast Eldrazi's.
Yeah.
And even with the 2 of them, it still wasn't enough to have an Eldrazi deck.
Right. So those were, we talked about these in the Legacy breakdown. These are examples of kind of like soul lands that tap for 2 mana.
Yeah.
Right. Way too good for Modern, but there was nothing you could do with them really.
Right. So they were fine.
Right.
Had no effect.
Eye of Ugin got played in Tron
as a way to tutor stuff.
As a way to go get big dumb things. Well, then we go to Battle for Zendikar and Oath of the Gatewatch.
Yeah.
And they started printing
4 and 5 mana Eldrazi.
Yeah. So you had Thought Knot Seer, a 4/4 for 3 and a Wingding.
Right. Wingding.
Specifically colored mana.
Right.
Or colorless mana. Right. So it was 3 of any type of mana and then 1 colorless mana.
Yep.
Wingding. Colorless mana. So then you have this 4 mana 4/4 that effectively thought seizes your opponent when it comes into play.
Yeah, and to exile too, not just discard.
Yeah, they get to draw a card if they kill your 4/4.
Yeah, that you played on turn 2.
Yeah, and then you have Reality Smasher, which is a 5/5 with trample and haste.
Mm-hmm. And if you target it, you have to discard a card, right?
Yeah, to target it, you have to discard a card. So it like makes all your like removal spells that could kill it as an additional cost, discard a card.
Right.
So it's always a 2-for-1.
Yep.
And it's like 4 in a Wingding.
4 in a Wingding, yep.
Yeah. So you have all these cards that are now way cheaper that taking 2 mana off of them with Eye of Ugin
makes them
makes
broken.
A huge difference. And you had Eldrazi Mimic, which was a 2 mana 2/1.
Yep.
And it wasn't 2, it was just 2 generic mana.
Right, didn't have to be colorless.
And Eye of Ugin says reduce the cost of Eldrazi spells by 2 generic mana.
So it costs nothing.
Yeah, so you could play like Eye of Ugin, Mimic.
Right.
And then a Thought Knot Seer on the next turn with
and swing 8.
Yeah, because Eldrazi Mimic gets power and toughness equal to the power and toughness of a colorless creature when it comes into play.
I think it's just Eldrazi.
Or Eldrazi, but something, right? So, like, you could have these explosive, like, deal 8 on turn 2.
Yeah.
And Eye of Ugin, well, it said, like, you get 2 mana. Sometimes it would give you 4 or 6 mana in a turn because you were able to play 2 things for effectively free.
Yeah, it's the difference between a cost reducer and, like, a mana dork.
Yeah. Basically, the Eldrazi deck got to play 8 soul lands and just got to run people over.
Right.
Initially, there were, like, at least 2, maybe 3. There were 3 different versions of Eldrazi in the top 8 of that tournament.
Yeah.
And the one that won was the list that was tuned to beat the other Eldrazi list.
Right.
Right.
Not the rest of the format.
Yeah, they were just like, we can beat this and nothing else matters.
Right.
because we'll beat all that just because we're way better.
And that was the red version, right?
It was the blue-red, like with Eldrazi Obligator and Sky Spawner.
Yeah. So instead of dealing with your stuff, they'll just take it and kill you with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was where we are. And so then after that, all the decks all these decks were playing Ensnaring Bridge, and we're playing ways to deal with
Giant Thing.
Yeah. So the whole format became about that.
Right. And we actually had a couple events in that time period, like bigger events, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. And it was just miserable. There
was a GP qualifier that I think I won.
Yeah.
Like I was playing Burn, I could beat everyone, and then just got lucky to beat the I think they were on Bant Eldrazi.
Yeah.
An early version of it, and they had Worship, but they didn't ever get their white mana, so I killed them.
Lucky.
Yeah, I got real lucky. But yeah, you just like would lose to it. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So you have like when there's just a deck that's omnipresent, and again, is at tier 0 where you either have to play it or you have to have a plan to beat it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's the first reason the cards get banned.
Right.
And they usually try to ban a card that will cripple that deck or make it more in line a reasonable power level.
Yeah.
So it can still kind of exist.
Yeah. They don't want to just ban decks out of the format. They want people to play with the cards. So if possible, they try and neuter decks enough that they still exist, just aren't, tier 0.
Yeah, so that was the Bridge from Below ban was, hey, maybe this, because they get these fast Hogaaks, but then they also get these, like, infinite, like,
infinite
just mill you out on turn 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Okay, like, that's not okay.
Yeah.
So let's see if we can fix that.
Yeah. Obviously, it didn't work.
Did not work. But so they try to, but they also worry about collateral damage for other decks.
Correct. Right, which is the whole thing behind the Faithless looting argument, where when Phoenix came out, you guys remember complaining about Phoenix needing bans?
Yeah.
Now we're in the Hogaak world. But the problem with Phoenix is nobody wants to ban Phoenix. Like, that's not the power card in the deck. The thing that enables that whole deck is Faithless looting. But Faithless looting is played in a whole bunch of other decks too. So if you ban Faithless looting to neuter Phoenix, you end up taking out a bunch of other decks also.
Out Dredge,
Pyromancer,
all these mono red prowess decks.
Yeah. Storm.
Yeah, you just lose all of these decks that can kind of no longer exist. It's kind of the like Simian Spirit Guide argument.
Right.
Like, people play Ad Nauseam,
right,
which need Spirit Guide to win.
Right.
But if you take Spirit Guide out, you just get rid of an entire deck.
Yep.
So they try to avoid doing that.
Yep. Same thing with Ancient Stirrings, right?
Yeah.
Ancient Stirrings is played in Tron, it's played in Affinity, it's played in Hardened Scales Affinity.
So like when KCI was the big terrible deck in the format, if you banned Ancient Stirrings, you kind of shadow ban Tron as well. So like this will take care of KCI, but it also gets rid of Tron.
Amulet Titan.
Tron, Amulet Titan, those decks no longer can function.
Right.
So they have to be careful on like what they ban.
Yep.
So that's kind of like what's going on with like the tier 0 bans. So one of the reasons they ban stuff is for competitive diversity.
Air quotes.
Yeah. So what card got banned for that?
That would be Splinter Twin. Right before Eldrazi Winter, right? Eldrazi, like that Pro Tour was the first Pro Tour without Splinter Twin.
Yeah, the thought was that they were banning Splinter Twin so that everyone just wasn't playing Blue-Red Twin.
Right.
I think that deck won the very first modern GP or modern Pro Tour. Like Splinter Twin has been in the format since the beginning. Since the beginning.
Yeah.
So Splinter Twin is 2 red for an enchantment. That says this creature has tap, make a token copy of itself.
Correct.
Sacrifice that copy at the end of... It has haste. Sacrifice that token at the end of turn.
Yep.
So you combined it with...
Like Pester Might or Deceiver Exarch.
Which, when they come into play, they get to tap or untap a permanent.
Yep.
So you tap it, you put the enchantment on the guy, you tap it, you make the copy untaps it, and you make an arbitrarily large number of guys.
Yeah, whatever your favorite number is.
Yes.
Preferably more than like 40.
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically, there was a whole deck that kind of like tempoed you out, held down the fort, and then got to a point where they could like...
Just win.
Yep.
That's what made that deck great, was because it could play like kind of a quasi burn control game, and then just kind of win out of nowhere if you weren't set up to
if you weren't respecting the combo. And a lot of times they would board the combo out and just be like a blue-red kind of like burn control deck.
Yep.
Their argument is that if you were going to play Mountains and Islands, you're only going to play Splinter Twin. So we have to get rid of Splinter Twin so there are more Mountain and Island decks.
Yeah. Well, you know when that happened? When they printed Arclight Phoenix.
Yeah, we got more Mountain and Island decks.
Yeah.
But they banned that, and then like Eldrazi Winter happened.
Yeah.
And there are a number of people who play Twin that whenever anyone talks about bannings, they just go like, if Twin was in the format, it would be fine. Twin was the police on everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe. Or maybe you're just dead before you get to put your Splinter Twin on your 1/4.
I don't know. I'm not going to argue with them because Twin's what made Jun a good deck.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So Jun would prey on Twin, had to play like Abrupt Decay, so you could kill their creature in response to them putting the thing on it. And then you could tear their hand apart and just have them left with like no combo piece.
Right. And then stick a Lily and they can't ever build the combo. So
yeah.
Good times.
So we had for competitive diversity.
Yep.
And then I guess it got banned before Twin was Birthing Pod.
Right. When they banned Birthing Pod, they kind of said it was for competitive diversity, but then, a couple sets later, they said, this was more for design constraints than anything else. So Birthing Pod is an artifact.
Yes.
It's a 3 in Phyrexian green. And you can pay 3 in a Phyrexian green?
It's 1 in a Phyrexian green.
It's just 1 in Phyrexian green. And sacrifice a creature and tap it. And go tutor up a creature with CMC equal to its CMC +1.
Yes, it's Neoform.
Yep.
Without the +1/+1 counter, but it's basically Neoform repeatable on an artifact.
Yep.
And so, like the classic like pod decks played things like Kitchen Finks that got you something when it came into play, and Kitchen Finks would come back after you sacrificed it, and you go get a 4-drop. And the card that kind of led to it getting banned was Siege Rhino.
Right.
Which was a 5/4 trampler or 4/5 trampler?
It was a 4/5 trampler that drained 3 when it entered the battlefield.
Yes. So their argument was, well, if Birthing Pod's around.
Yeah.
We want to print cool creatures in Standard like Siege Rhino.
Yeah.
And we can't do that because anything we print...
It just makes Pod better.
Yes. So we're going to get rid of Pod.
Yep.
So now we can feel free to make any dumb, nonsensical creature that we want.
Sure.
Like, cool. So those were like the two we kind of touched on, like the Grave Troll ban, unban.
Yeah.
And like those were the two like kind of big bans that have happened since we've been playing, I think.
Yeah, and like the Twin ban and the Pod ban kind of came out of nowhere. It's not like people were really clamoring for them. That was just something that they decided to do. I think all the rest of the bans were for a reason.
Like
people
a clear
wanted
like
the bans,
offensive deck.
Yeah.
Right. And so then we have the rare stuff that seems not so rare now.
Right. These last couple of years have been crazy for bannings.
Standard.
In Standard, yeah. At no other point in history have there been so many banned cards in Standard.
Yes.
In January of 2017, kind of started this off for everybody. It was the first time that a card had been banned in Standard since Jace the Mind Sculptor and Stoneforge Mystic in 2011.
Yes, you may have heard the phrase Cobblade.
Yeah.
That was the deck that got Jace and Stoneforge banned.
Yep. It was also the deck that put LSV on the map.
No, he won his Pro Tour with Elves.
That was Elves.
It was like Patrick Chapin's like.
Oh, that was his.
He talks about that deck all the time. He wrote a rap song about Jace the Mind Sculptor. Jace better than all. Oh yeah.
I haven't heard that one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a thing.
Okay. I'll have to look it up after the episode.
Yes. So you have Jason Stoneforge got banned in 2011.
Yep.
Nothing happened.
Yep.
And then January 2017, they banned Emrakul the Promised End because it had a cast trigger.
That was unfun. You got to mind slaver your opponent. You got to play their turn for them.
Yes, and then they got to take a turn immediately after that, but usually you like
decimated them. Yeah.
Emptied out their hand, killed half their board.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you could card cost 13, but cost 1 less for each card type in your graveyard.
Correct.
But with Aetherworks Marvel, it cost 4 and 6 energy.
Yep.
So that was a problem. If you could turn 4, make a 13/13 flying trampler that
wrecked your opponent's next turn.
Yeah, 8 their turn 3.
Yeah. It was kind of awkward. It wasn't a whole lot of fun to play against. However, that wasn't the actual problem. We're going to work through some more of these bans, and we'll come to the actual problem.
This is very similar to the whole Bridge from Below issue.
It is, yeah. Right? It's crazy.
So we had Emrakul got banned.
Yep.
And then they banned Smuggler's Copter.
Yep.
Which this happens with new card types.
Yeah, it's hard to design them because they don't know how powerful they actually are. So
Smuggler's Copter was
a vehicle.
The rare vehicle. Oh no, I guess there were a couple other rare vehicles, but it was the
best one.
It was the best one. So it was 2 mana.
Yep.
For a vehicle that had a
3/3 flyer.
Yes, that had crew 1.
Yep.
And when it attacked or blocked, you got to draw a card and discard a card.
Yep.
So the Looter Scooter. Gave you an evasive 3/3 that gave you card filtering.
And it could also trade up in combat because your 1/1 can now profitably block your opponent's
2/2.
2/2.
Or 2/3.
Yeah.
Or just trade for their 4/3 or whatever.
Trade up in mana, yeah.
So it was the first vehicle these things happened.
Yep.
Like Umezawa's Jitte was one of the first equipment. It wasn't the first, but you know, they didn't realize how good they were.
Yep. Went on to be too strong.
And we have Reflector Mage, 1 blue-white for a 2/3. Return a creature your opponent controls to its owner's hand.
And then they can't cast it during their following turn.
Yes. That card was apparently the blue-white archetype in
Oath of the Gatewatch.
Oath of the Gatewatch wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
So they just threw this uncommon in to make the blue-white limited deck better.
Yep.
Not realizing that it was like super feel bad. It's like bounce your 3-drop, you can't replay it. I have a 2/3.
Well, it was like the biggest offender was Collected Company.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It was in a deck that like it worked perfectly with.
Yeah. You could company, get 2 of them, wreck your opponent's board, and they just never recover.
And they could just never recover.
Yeah.
So they made these bans.
Right.
And like right before or right after these bans,
Aether Revolt came out in February.
Aether Revolt, but they had spoiled Felidar Guardian, and it took Reddit like 5 minutes to go like, doesn't this just make an infinite combo with Saheeli?
Yeah.
And they were like, it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll hold up. 3 months. When we had like 3 months of people only playing 4-color Saheeli, they were like, yeah, Felidar Guardian has to go.
Yep, so it did.
Yeah. They missed the combo. It took like 15 minutes for the world at large to get the combo.
Good job, Wizards.
Yeah. Right around here is when they started, like, you've heard of play design?
Yeah.
This is where play design came from, like this standard disaster.
This mistake.
Yeah.
Felidar Guardian was also an emergency ban, wasn't it?
It may have been like April 2017. Sounds like when there would have been a ban, but I'm not sure.
I want to say it was an emergency ban.
It might have been too soon. You might be right. Then in June 2017, they banned Aetherworks Marvel.
Yep.
We got rid of Saheeli Felidar Guardian combo.
Mm-hmm.
That meant that playing Ulamog the Cecil Hunger for 4 mana and 6 energy became real good.
Real good.
I liked that.
Yeah. Ulamog let you blow up your opponent's lands, which turns out is pretty good on turn 3 or 4 or 5.
Exile is just exile 2 permanents.
Yeah. And it's a 10/10 indestructible, so.
That mills them for exiles the top 20 cards of their library when you attack.
Yeah.
So basically, you like bomb them into the Stone Age. They can't kill it.
Yeah.
And even if they can chump it, you eat their library and then they die to decking.
Right.
It kind of covers all the bases.
Yeah, you just win the game.
For 10 mana, not reasonable, really. For 4 mana, definitely not reasonable.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Aetherwork Marvel was a 4 mana artifact that said tap, pay 6 energy.
Well, it also gave you an energy when something died, right?
Yes. So whenever a permanent left the battlefield, you got an energy, but it was tap, pay 6 energy, look at the top 6 cards of your library, and cast.
Yeah, cast one.
Cast one. So I think they thought that cast would then give like counter spells, I can counter this.
Yeah.
Right? But they had the Eldrazi that had cast triggers. So you would cast them and you would get that effect. So it's kind of like a standard example would be Hydroid Crisis, right? You always get to draw the cards.
Right.
they had to ban Marvel. Now, if they would have banned Marvel in January, maybe we would have had like there were these Turbo Emrakul decks that were like putting a bunch of different card types into their graveyard, trying to cast Emrakul on like turn 6 or 7, which is, again, thoroughly unreasonable.
Way better than turn 4, though.
But like you have to like play like strategic planning or whatever the like mission briefing or not mission, whatever the garbage like look at the top.
Grapple with the past.
Grapple with the past, and there was like one that was like contingency planned.
Vessel and Nascency.
Yeah, but basically you had to like
yeah.
commit to all these garbage cards to find your
good.
piece and make it good. So Emrakul died for the sins of the energy mechanic.
Yes.
Another like, hey, this is a cool new mechanic. It might be busted.
Yeah. Turns out it was. Yeah, because shortly after they banned Marvel, and actually this is kind of funny because this was when I went to GP Vegas.
Yes.
And I spiked a PTQ with Marvel-less Marvel.
Okay.
Like before Marvel was banned, I played Teamer Energy with no Marvels and just wrecked people. I came in like second in my pod or something. I ended up with like 2 boxes of product for it. But yeah, that's what the deck turned into. When they banned Aetherworks Marvel, turns out all of the other energy spells are still great.
You had all these really good energy spells. So Attune with Ether, which is just a green, search for a basic.
2 energy.
Get 2 energy.
Yep.
Rogue Refiner, which they keep making this card.
The card's great.
But they keep making, so it was 1 blue-green, a 3/2, enters the battlefield, draw a card, get 2 energy.
Yep.
I mean, we have a common that is a 2/1 flyer, draw a card for 3. Mm-hmm. Like, they keep making cards that are super close to this card. Or, Risen Reef.
Oh, yeah.
Risen Reef is, close. Like, real close. It's like, it gets -2, -1.
Yeah.
But then
triggers
it just keeps drawing a bunch of cards when you play other stuff.
I hadn't thought of that.
So they keep making cards that are almost Rogue Refiner, but what put Rogue Refiner over the top was the 2 energy.
Yeah.
Because the 2 energy was actually worth about a card. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of like 3/2 draw 2 cards. You wouldn't have
played Attune with Ether if it wasn't for the energy.
Yeah. So it was like a 3/2 that kind of drew you a card and a half to 2 cards.
Yeah.
So they got rid of that. Mm-hmm. And then they banned Ramanop Ruins because it could be argued that the mono-red deck that existed before was better and more oppressive than the mono-red deck we had dealt with for the previous 6 or 7 months.
Absolutely. Like, we have Risk Factor and like Experimental Frenzy now as a way for a red deck to kind of like progress through the late game, like kind of to still have a late game. But this red deck didn't need it because it just killed you with its lands.
Yeah, so Ramanop Ruins was it tapped for a red and dealt you a damage?
Yep, and you could pay 4 and sacrifice a desert to do 2 to a target?
Yeah.
Was it Shock?
I think it was Shock.
Yeah.
Or 2 to a player, not a target. It was
right,
just
yeah,
to a player.
2 to a player.
And it was a desert, so it was like just tap 4 in itself and deal 2.
Yep.
And you also had Hazaret to throw not lands at them.
Yep, and it ran Scorched Desert too. Which was just it pinged your opponent for 1 when it entered the battlefield and was a desert.
That deck was real good, so they banned that.
Yep.
This was before Dominaria came out.
Right.
So they banned Rampaging Ferocidon, which is a 3/3 for 3. Mm-hmm. Players can't gain life, and whenever a creature comes into play, Ferocidon deals 1 to that creature's controller.
Correct.
So I think that they made Rampaging Ferocidon in a response to Felidor Guardian.
They actually said they did.
So you like make a bunch of the Felidor Guardians, and then you die to Ferocidon triggers.
Right.
But when they banned Felidor Guardian, I think they decided that card was too strong.
Yeah.
If they thought there was going to be like a black-white vampire tokeny deck, like it just could never exist.
Right.
So they got rid of that. Now they did decide to then print a red 3/3 that deals 1 to everything.
Yeah. Can you imagine a deck with both of those in the same deck though? Insane.
So bad.
Yeah.
All of these screw-ups is what...
Ferocidon would still be in standard.
Yeah. For all of these screw-ups, they made play design to kind of fix this. I think, was Ixalan the first set they worked on? Or no, it was after Ixalan. They were hired around Ixalan.
Yeah, I think it was Dominaria was the first set that they actually worked on.
Yeah. You know, it would be really bad if Ferocidon was in the format? Escape Shift.
Like
Field of the Dead? Yeah.
Yeah, unplayable.
Super sad.
Yeah.
we'll talk about his playability here in a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm mad. So this is why things get banned. Like, it's usually something rises up or basically precludes something else from being done. So basically part of the reason they banned the energy mechanic was they weren't going to be able to print anything that was better than the energy package.
Yeah.
And it's a parasitic mechanic, meaning that it just feeds on itself.
Yeah, it wants a whole bunch of stuff that says energy on it.
And then you can't bring in other stuff. So, like, it brought in Glorybringer.
Right.
It was, like, the only card that didn't say, like, energy on it.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, it was just like, hey, I'm going to play the same, like, 30 cards from now until they rotate.
Yeah.
Now, some could argue that Hero of Dominaria has the same problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's not parasitic, though.
It's not parasitic, but I'm going to play the same 35, 40 cards.
Yeah.
But I'll get off my soapbox. So that's why they banned energy.
Mm-hmm.
No one's going to play anything else. We can't print anything that is better than this.
Right.
I've also heard that one reason they banned Ferocidon was because Lyra would have been trash.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even
right?
think
Like,
of
you're
that.
playing its mono red,
Yeah.
and you stick your 5/5 lifelinky angel, and they're just like,
That's
you
cute.
can't gain life, attack you, kill you.
Yeah.
Right? So Lyra could never stabilize anyone against red.
Yeah.
Because they were just like, can't gain life.
That makes sense.
So it was like, well, we don't want to have our flagship mythic 2 sets from now just be like toilet paper.
Yeah. That's kind of weird, too, because, like, actually the Esper deck did well for a long time solely because of the life gain.
Yeah.
Like the incidental stuff off of like Moment of Craving and Absorb and stuff. That was the only reason that deck was good for a while.
Like you could, like, if Mono Red had Ferocidon, like they would have not been able to, like, if you could have, sure, if you're on the play, stick a Ferocidon and you just run something into their Absorb, the fact that it didn't gain 3 life, they just died.
Right.
Yeah, so that's why things have gotten banned kind of throughout history. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, going forward, they have enough sense to not get things banned in Standard.
Well, I thought we were in a pretty good spot until Hogaak.
Yeah, that might have been a smaller team, and I think Modern's way harder to, like, test for.
Oh, yeah,
right? It's just
Modern's
so much
almost
bigger.
impossible to test
It's so much bigger. You can try, but you're going to miss something dumb.
Yeah.
I'm sure the phrase Satyr Wayfinder is playable in Modern entered no one's head when they were testing Hogaak.
I don't know, man. I love me some Satyr Wayfinder.
Yeah, but you never thought, like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put this in a format where I can pay 1 and a green for a Tarmogoyf. I'm going to play a 1/1. You never thought that.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm sure, like, they weren't like, what happened if we put Satyr Wayfinder in with this? And did they know about Citrus Supplier? Like, based on when they were making it versus what cards were coming out? Because I'm sure they talk, but, like, I'm also, I'm sure there's a pretty good chance that, like, the M19 design people weren't like, dude, we made this uncommon. It's a 1/1 for 1 that mills 3 cards.
And then mills 3 more cards?
Yeah, and then I'm sure that, and that probably didn't ring alarm bells of, oh, that's like, 60% of Hogaak's, like, delve. Right. And 1 of the pips, so it casts like
half of
Hogaak.
Yeah.
And then when they told them about Hogaak, they weren't like, oh man, Citrus Supplier, just like bust that. I'm sure those things never happened. So there may have just been a disconnect of Satyr Wayfinder not playable, Citrus Supplier, not a card we have to think about.
Yep.
So hopefully they will not like have bannings in Standard anymore because they're focusing way more on making that reasonable. And
we can hope.
And it seems like they used to put the answers in the following set. Yeah. But it seems like at least for the last 2 sets, they're putting the answers in the set with it. So the Elder Spell was supposed to be, I think, the safety valve. Like, man, if we missed on one of these Planeswalkers, or 2 or 3 of them, at least the Elder Spell is here to, like, hold them down.
Clean it up.
In, like, Field of the Dead, we're like, oh man, what if we're wrong about Field of the Dead? We're just going to put Legion's End in here as a clean answer to Field of the Dead. Okay, cool. So I feel like they're doing some things where, like, they're putting... Because, like, you looked at Legion's End and you're like, this card is not great.
Yeah, unplayable.
Kind of unplayable, and now it's just, like, a 4 of in, like, every black deck. Yeah. Because it answers Field of the Dead. There you go. There's banned stuff.
Yeah. Pretty comprehensive talk of
all things
everything
bans.
that you need to know about bannings
and why they happen.
Yep.
So your Hogaaks, unless you want to like play in a, well, you're not going to get anything for your Hogaaks now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hogaaks are cheap now.
Yes, unfortunately. Mine were $12. I'm sad.
I think mine were $4.50.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Get got, nerd.
That's right.
So we have here getting out of your house.
Yeah, this was a topic that I had a conversation with one of our listeners. They had some things that they wanted to discuss, and I thought this one in particular was a really good point that we definitely live by, but I could see that a lot of people might not. So yeah, we're calling this expanding your comfort zone or get out of your house.
Yes.
There are a lot of benefits to playing with people face to face. One of them is, like, that's what I like about the game. You know, I like going out on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays, whatever, and seeing my buddies and talking about Magic cards and obviously playing the game. I probably wouldn't be here if I didn't enjoy playing the game. Like, that's kind of what separates it from a lot of the other games, and especially like the digital clients. Some of the games like Hearthstone or Artifact, or what was the other one that you guys used to play?
Eternal.
Like, those games are fine and they're fun and good way to kill some time, but they kind of lack like the face-to-face aspect of it. So one reason to get out of the house is for the social part.
Yeah.
Go build some social skills, be a reasonable human being, get out of your basement.
Yes.
Expanding on that a little bit, I also really enjoy playing outside of our game store. Our game store is great, and I like all the people that hang out there, most of the people that hang out there. But you can only get so good if you never leave your game store. Like, if you're only ever playing the same 6 or 7 people, there's a ceiling on how far you can progress as a player, right?
Yeah. Like, if you're the best player in your store, you're not going to get markedly better.
Yeah.
Because there's no one, like, pushing you to be better.
Well, there's also diminishing returns, too. Like, even if you're, the 4th or 5th best player in your store, like, the amount of effort that you're going to have to put in to go from 4th or 5th to 1st is a lot more than if you went to some other store and you were the 12th best player and you wanted to get to 4th or 5th. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're just going to develop different skills because you can play against different people with different strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, absolutely. Building on that, you also play in different metagames. I know in our store, I've been playing Modern for like 4 years maybe. I've never played against anybody playing Tron in our game store.
I cannot say that is the same for me. One of the very first, we had someone come in randomly back when we were across from the high school.
Yeah.
Who had a Russian foil Tron deck.
All right.
And mulliganed to 4 against me and played Karn on turn 4. On turn 3. I was just like, this deck's unbeatable. Like, I had no idea what was going on. It was like when I first started playing, this is great. I played against it a couple of times. We don't have Tron players.
Yeah, nobody at the store plays Tron. I don't think I've ever played in a Modern event at our store, at least like a weekly event, where even like an outsider has come in and brought Tron with them. I think like there was maybe a couple like GPTs or something where somebody randomly like brought Tron. But so the only way in this instance for me to get experience playing against Tron is to either have somebody proxy it up and, jam some games for fun, or go to a store where people play Tron. And kind of the opposite goes for like control decks. We've got a lot of people, especially that play Modern, that love control decks.
Yeah. So
there is a lot higher percentage of control players in our store than there might be, at a store somewhere else.
Yeah, so if you just went by like our store's metagame, you'd be like, oh man, Blue, White, and Jeskai Control are like 40% of the metagame.
Right.
But in reality, they're like 5.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Almost none.
Yeah. So like, because you only have a certain number of people that have a Modern deck.
Yeah, and they tend to, like, people tend to have archetypes. Like, you like to play degenerate broken stuff. I tend to play, like, grindy mid-range stuff. Control players tend to play control decks.
So you have a type, and everyone kind of plays their type. And if you don't go somewhere else, you don't realize there's other people.
Yeah.
Now, like, online doesn't address, like, leaving your house and interacting with people, but it can address, like, changing a different metagame.
Oh, absolutely.
But online has a totally different metagame than paper.
Yeah.
Due to card availability and what people are willing to spend, especially on like Magic Online.
Yeah, and like GPs have a different metagame than like the Star City Tour also.
Yes.
Like just, different areas, the type of people that they attract to them can absolutely change the metagame. And if you don't go out and like try some of these other events, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice, right?
Yeah.
And, I'm not saying that everyone needs to run out and play in as many GPs as they can, but get out of your house. Maybe it's worth a trip on a Friday to a store, half an hour down the road instead of 10 minutes down the road.
James also has just randos that he has played at various events walk up to him at GPs and say hi.
Well, yeah,
it's
great.
Like the James thing. People are just like, oh, it's James. I recognize that beard. And then
I mean, that happens, though, when you spend some time, going out.
Yeah.
Like, we hit the PPTQ circuit pretty good.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. There was a time where we played in a bunch of, IQs.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. But
basically, all the events we liked have gotten, eliminated.
Yeah. But, when you go out and do these sorts of things, though, you tend to run into people, of the same mindset that maybe you wouldn't have met otherwise.
That you run into at 3 or 4 different events.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember his name now. The guy that me and Nick ran into, randomly in Lugoff, South Carolina, in the middle of nowhere, that's from Texas, that I've seen at, every single remotely big event since then.
Yeah. So you just run into people.
Yeah.
Another reason for getting out of your store and your play group is the inbreeding of deck lists.
Yeah.
Right. So I play the degenerate combo graveyardy stuff. Mm-hmm. So even when those decks aren't good, I'm playing some goofy thing. There are way more Grafdigger's Cages and Rest in Pieces in our store than there should be.
Yeah.
And you get good at playing against the hate.
Yeah.
But it's also,
which is good for you.
Yeah, but it's also just for them, that's not the deck they would register if they went to a bigger event. I typically will show up with the deck I would register at a larger event.
Yeah, I usually do too.
And I'm we'll see what happens. Because I try to, I'm always thinking if I go to a GP, what would I play?
Right.
If I go to a Star City Open, what would I play? Mm-hmm. Right, so let's say your store, there's a bunch of people who play Burn.
Right.
You can play Timely Reinforcements in the main if you want. You can play Leyline of Sanctity in the sideboard and be I'm never going to lose this matchup.
Right.
But if you go to a bigger event...
Maybe you'll see it once instead of 4 times on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe you won't even see it at all. Now you've got cards that are dead in your main. You have cards that are dead in your sideboard. Mm-hmm. Or just not as impactful as they could be.
Yeah. And
you just are this wasn't a good setup for this deck, but you might not realize it's not because you didn't. You just think everything's like your store.
Yep. This was actually a an achievement or a milestone for me when I was growing as a player. I remember when I came back to the game, me and my buddy Chris would sit down and just jam a bunch of games, either on our lunch break or before we went to the game store or whatever. So we would tweak our decks to beat each other and not necessarily beat everybody at the store. If he was playing a white aggressive deck, I'd put a bunch of walls in my deck because he couldn't get through them. But walls are trash.
Yes.
You're not going to go, to a standard showdown with your wall deck. I mean, maybe you would, but you're not going to do great. Whereas, between me and him in the matchup, they were fantastic because I couldn't lose.
Yeah.
So this is, not only is it something to help you grow, get out of your house, get out of your store, try and venture out. Not only is it better for competitive players looking to get better, but it's also something that more casual players, people maybe coming off of Arena or whatever, need to understand also that there's a lot bigger game out there.
Gotcha. And even for Commander players, right?
Yeah.
Right. If you play against the same 3 or 4 Commander players, right, you guys are going to start to build your decks, and you're going to know exactly what they're going to play when they sit down. So maybe you go to a GP and you pay the $5 to play in a Commander pod, and you see a totally different world.
Yeah.
Now it's harder now, with the internet, the information's out there, but not everyone's plugged in, and you might not have time to scour all the Commander Reddits to find.
Yeah, there's 2,000 commanders out there.
Yeah. It's just a way to do different stuff and see different things.
Mm-hmm. It's something that people don't necessarily think of as a way to improve, a way to better their skills is by getting out of their store. And you don't have to do it all the time, but like I said, maybe you skip an FNM at your store and head an hour down the road. Or I know what I like to do is a couple times a year I have to go to training in Atlanta, and when I do that, I try and hit one of the stores there.
Yeah.
Even if it's not for an FNM or whatever, if I can catch a Monday night standard or like a Tuesday night modern or something, I'll do that just to play with some different people.
Yeah,
see some
I would.
Different deck lists, whatever.
When my wife lived in Charleston, I would go, and there was a store like 35 minutes away in Somerville. So if she was working at night when I was there, I would go like play F&M at like, random store in Somerville.
Yep. I know a couple times I've mentioned and kind of gotten scoffed at, but when we travel, like I think it'd be neat to, have, all of us show up at like a random game store.
Just run over some people at a game store.
Yeah, if we show up, our event's not till Saturday morning or whatever, if we can get into town at a reasonable time, I think it'd be cool to roll like 4 people into an LGS and see what happens.
Yeah, there we go. And then the last thing we have here is just travel, just seeing different places you would otherwise not go.
Yeah, I mean, how often are you going to spend time in Baltimore?
None. I would have never had whatever that restaurant's called. I forget what it's called.
G&W?
G&W or something like that.
Yeah,
A+ if you're there.
Absolutely.
All good reasons to kind of play against different people and do different stuff.
Yep, venture out, expand your horizons, be a social animal.
So, arena time.
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all, we had Roger G.
Yep, thanks, Roger.
Apparently, you might know Roger. I don't know if Jesse gave us any stuff, but he's given us stuff this week. I just saw when I was looking at the data sheets for this week. Our boy Ken.
Yep, Ken was killing it. I saw a bunch of entries from him.
Is hard at it, yeah. And then I have concerns for our compadre Dieter. You may remember Dieter started out as Sober Dieter.
Yeah.
And then he just became
Dieter. Yeah.
And then one of his entries was like, and this was the point that I realized I was not in the ranked queue. So I'm where the Sober Dieter has fallen off the wagon. It is, maybe next time he'll be like Drunk Dieter or something, just like. So
sorry, Dieter.
We're a little worried about you, Dieter. But thank you for entering data, no matter what your state is. Much appreciated.
Send us a message. Tell us you're all right.
Yeah. So I've noticed the format in the last week has shifted drastically.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There were 2 fandom tournaments in the last couple weeks as the big events.
Yeah.
For Standard. But the thing I've noticed as being someone who is playing Scapeshift is Legion's End, 1 black, exile a creature with converted mana cost 2 or less than all copies of it, and then look at
everything with the same name.
Same name, and then you look in their hand and you take stuff. It's just a clean answer to 7 zombies from Field of the Dead.
Or 40.
And the Esper decks are playing 4 of them now.
Yeah.
The Vampires is running the card, some number. It's they're only out, and I think they might be up to 2 or 3. Jund Dinosaur seems to have just gone away.
Disappeared.
Yeah, I haven't played against it hardly at all. There's a Sultai Scapeshift deck.
That sounds sweet.
Where they've cut to Fairy and, the white cards. But they're playing Legions End now in their main deck.
Okay.
And then they get Duress out of the sideboard because that helps answer the hate, right? That answers the Duresses and the Legions End that people are bringing in for you. I've run into Blood Suns, Alpine Moons,
man,
just all kinds of stuff
of hate
that wasn't around 10 days ago.
Yeah,
there's a 4-color Elementals deck that's a combo deck.
Okay, that
plays Neoform, the Thunderkin Awakener, the thing that gets back Elementals. Yeah. So you play that, and then you play Risen Reef, and then the next turn you Neoform the Risen Reef, get an Omnath.
Okay.
Attack with your Thunderkin Awakener, get back your Risen Reef, trigger.
That seems pretty good.
And then they'll combo kill you with Yarok.
Yeah.
So they'll play Yarok and then play an Omnath at some point. They also have a Skittering Scorcher, the one that makes 2 elementals.
Yeah.
So
it's an army in a box. And
it's 3 triggers off of your Risen Reef.
Yep.
And if you have a Yarok out, it's 4 1/1s.
Oh yeah.
So you're Yarok, make that. Now you're up to 6 elementals.
Yeah.
Next turn, Omnath, hit him for 14.
Yeah, that's pretty
7
good.
and 7.
Yeah.
So that's a deck that's floating around, and there's the red black aggressive sacrifice deck.
Yeah.
Is a deck that has really started to show up. I might have to move it into an actual named category because it's the thing I've played against the most.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look this list up. It sounded really interesting when we were talking about it earlier.
Yeah. What I did is we had the most games in Platinum, but we only had 25. So Platinum, it was 18% Scapeshift, 22% Teamer Elementals, 12% off meta, and then just a bunch of Like Jund Dinos here is like 9%.
Yeah.
But that was 9% like the beginning of the week. It's kind of gone away. And Vampires was like 6%, but now I think Vampires is like on the upswing.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talking about how Vampires is maybe the best deck in the format right now.
Yeah. And so I also then made from everyone's data
a master chart.
Kind of a master chart of everything.
Yeah.
That gets us to 69
Ooh.
matches played. So we get significantly more matches if we're taking from bronze to, I think we're at bronze to platinum.
Yeah.
Right? And again, 30% of it's off meta. I think a lot of that might be attributed to Red Black.
Yeah.
Because I think I played against it twice today out of like my 5 or 6 matches. But it's like Scapeshift is 16%, Elementals is 10%, Vampires and Dinos is like 6%.
Yeah.
Simic / Ramp is 8%. And you have like Simic Flash. And Simic Flash is a deck I haven't played against but like once in the last like 5 or 6 days.
Yeah, I haven't seen it much lately.
I did take some time to, and I'm gonna tweet these out later on tonight or whatever. So you should see them before the podcast comes out. We've been behind on the short like 1 week formats. Like our podcast comes out after the format's done.
Yeah.
So I tweeted out my Sultai list for Singleton that has a sideboard because of Mastermind's acquisition.
Right.
You can't see the light leave someone's eyes, but you know what happens when you Mastermind's acquisition and then play an Omniscience.
Yeah.
I was behind. I cast a Mastermind's acquisition. I was at like 3 when they passed a turn back and proceeded to cast like 2 6-mana Planeswalkers, a Narset, downtick the Narset, get something else, cast that, and they just scooped them all up. It was like Lily, Big Veraska, Narset, get something else, and like, I'm done here. Yeah. I don't want to deal with this anymore. Plays Golos.
Nice.
Yeah. 1 white, 2 white sources, 2 red sources. You can activate your Golos. It's all good. It's a deck that will grind people out. You will sometimes get a little behind, and it has tools to catch up, but they cost like 6 mana.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a way to stabilize early, or if you draw the rampy side of your deck and not the Planeswalker side of your deck, it's bad times. And the thing I don't like about this format, and this might be like, a thing that happens in Commander as well, is like it seems like the person on the play that like finds their like Planeswalker first, you just get so far behind, you just can't catch up.
Yeah, I don't know that that's a thing in Commander because it's multiplayer.
Yeah, but like if it was like just one, like it's like, oh, you hit your like, you went like Karn into 5 mana Teferi. I played my Nissa. I can't kill either one.
Right.
I'm just gonna like be perpetually down like 2 cards a turn.
That's tough.
But sometimes it's the other way around, and you go Karn into Vivian, and you're just like, guess what?
Lose.
You can never beat me now.
Yeah. This
might take a while, but we will kill you. So I sent that out as like, this is the deck I played. I can safely say I was probably winning 60+% of my games.
That's pretty good.
So something we'll talk about maybe next week is, I've been playing Scapeshift, and the metagame has changed to be super hostile to Scapeshift.
Yeah.
So like things you can do to fix your deck against like a changing metagame.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good topic.
If you still want to keep playing your Field of the Deads, and I do. So
play Scapeshift till it rotates.
That's right. I get like another like a few weeks of it.
Yep.
And I'm not going to play Valakut in Modern. That seems like a fool's errand.
Yeah.
So
I want to get 7 lands. Okay, I want to cast a Hogaak on turn 2.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to get the 7 lands.
I'm not going to get the 7 lands.
Block with Secure, Tribalder, and sack. You still take 8. That's not how that works.
Steve's great at going under the bus.
Yeah, but when the bus tramples over him, he doesn't do anything. Did you see there was a meme that got tweeted out, that Tom Ross tweeted out, that was like, Tom, we really appreciate your work here, but we're not going to be able to renew your contract for play design. And it was a picture of Hogaak, and then a picture of Tom Ross just writing the word trample on Hogaak.
I didn't see that. That sounds pretty good.
He was like, that may have been what happened. Because it would not be nearly as bad if it didn't have trample.
It wouldn't be suppressive for sure.
Yeah. But Can I block it? No.
Nope.
No, you can't.
I mean, you can, but it doesn't do you any good.
Yeah. So I think with that, with our kind of tour of bannings.
Yep.
Okay, wait a minute. We didn't tell you the story about where the original modern ban list came from.
Oh, yeah, we mentioned it, and then I forgot about it.
Yeah. So there was like a community cup where they brought in community members to play this new format called Modern.
Mm-hmm.
And it had LSV and Marshall were on the same team. Marshall's told this story about how it's like improved him as a Magic player.
Yeah.
Because he was like, what should I do? And LSV's like, spend all your mana, idiot.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. I should probably do that. And so, but they played Modern. And basically, all the busted decks that they played in that Community Cup event got banned.
So that's how we got like all those initial bans like we were talking about?
Yeah, so the part of the initial ban list was, part of it was, this was way too good and extended. Mm-hmm. We don't want to put it into Modern.
Yeah.
And like, oh man, like these Hypergenesis decks are ridiculous.
Yeah.
We have to ban this. And then right after that, there was a banning of Blazing Shoal.
Right.
Which is the red pitch card.
Yeah, so it's like the green one gains your life, and I don't know what the other ones do.
Yeah.
Oh, the blue one countered stuff.
Yeah, the blue one counters something with whatever shoal.
CMC equal to Disrupting Shoal.
Disrupting Shoal.
Yeah.
CMC equal to the blue card you exiled.
Yep.
Blazing Shoal gave something +X+0, where X was the either you paid X, it was red X, or X was equal to the converted mana cost of whatever card you exiled to cast it.
It had to be a red card, right?
Had to be a red card.
Yeah.
So there's Reaper King, which is like 2 hybrid red, 2 hybrid green, 2. Yeah. So it has a converted mana cost of 10. Mm-hmm. But it's red.
Technically.
So you can go Glistener Elf on turn 1, attack, discard Reaper King to Blazing Shoal, make your Infector an 11/1.
Good game.
Plus have 2 mana up for some sort of interaction.
Yeah.
Spell Pierce you. Win the game.
Yeah.
So that got to live in one tournament. I think it was Josh Utter Layton who played that, and they were like,
good.
This can't be a thing ever.
Yeah.
That's why we don't have Blazing Shoal. So yeah. So that's where the original ban list came from, is partly from this like Community Cup event that they played right at the beginning of the format.
That's pretty cool.
And what is it? Gavin Verhees, who works at Wizards now, is credited with designing Modern. He like did it as a goof and then like sent it in. That's part of his application for getting into Wizards, was he designed Modern.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Like he started Modern by himself and like maintained like a ban list and everything. And when they decided to make it a legit format, that was the template they used, was part of his format that he was making that became Modern.
That's pretty cool.
So there you go. History lesson. We'll see where this ends up in the podcast.
Yeah.
And with that, through the power of editing, this is now the end of the podcast.
Wow. It's crazy how that works.
So if you want to reach out to us, we're on Twitter at Casual Tripod.
Yep. On Facebook at Casual Tryhard MTG. And you can email us at show@casualtryhardmtg.com. And
if you like YouTube and you hate seeing things, we're going to try to start posting these to YouTube as well.
Yeah, when we first started doing these, we had some requests for YouTube, and I think I found a way that's kind of hassle-free. You're not going to get a whole bunch of fancy images to go with our beautiful voices, but it'll be another way for you to get at us.
Yeah, so hopefully this week it'll work, but we will be efforting to do that.
Yep.
And we're working on a new logo, so if it looks a little bit different in your podcast app,
bear with us.
That's us. We're trying to. And so with that, we'll catch you next week.
Yep, we'll catch you at F&M.